calling anyone a racist. I wasn't blaming anyone for anything, but that I was asking them to consider from their positions of power, because they are positions of power. If you are Richard Dawkins or Daniel Dennett or Sam Harris, you are in a position of power because you have a voice that reaches millions, and yet you ignore that maybe it's more difficult for people from non-white middle-class backgrounds to step forward as atheists. That's all I wanted them to consider, and yet so many white people responded like as if I was accusing them of racism, and that speaks volumes about the culture of kind of fear that we live in the UK, and I'm not going to address that right now. Again, no accusation of racism from me, but people felt they were being accused of racism. I'll let you make of that what you will. I want to deal with a point from a gentleman over there. I am not a proselytizing atheist. I'm not someone who goes around saying, you should be an atheist, you should be an atheist. I don't go around promoting atheism or kind of trying to convert people to atheism. I go around saying, I am an atheist. And I know that there are lots of other atheists out there, and I want them to be free to come out like I have. And look, if you want to go and look on the internet, look up someone called Greta Christina. She does a incisive kind of analysis of the parallels between the gay movement and the atheist movement, and how the atheist movement is letting down the black and other minority atheist communities in the same way that the gay and lesbian communities let black and Asian gays down. So again, there's no need for me to trot out those arguments. You can go and look them out. It's been said here earlier today that I don't think anybody here is about promoting atheism. We need to concentrate on political goals like promoting secularism. And that's entirely separate to issues about how people feel about, you know, mythical entities who may or may not run the universe, or what people need to believe in order to come to terms with death or the meaning of life. I don't care. Okay? Politically, these issues should be irrelevant. And that's why, if we're going to campaign politically, we should be campaigning for secularism. Finally, in terms of my family reaction, I am willing to answer that question. I was born in Bangladesh to what you would call Muslim parents, but they were Muslim in the sense that everybody from Bangladesh was Muslim in the 1970s in this non-Islamist way, where you were culturally Islamic, and that's changed and it saddens me. But my mother died when I was very young, and I never had a good relationship with my father, so there were no parents for me to kind of upset. My siblings are all atheists. However, my immediate Bangladeshi friends, my so-called uncles and aunts, are all Muslims, and I have to confess, some of my friends, I think, still struggle with it. And I don't think they struggle with the fact that I don't believe in the Quran or that I'm not a Muslim. I think they struggle with how it makes them feel uncomfortable about their own beliefs. I don't think they believe. I don't think any of my closest Bangladeshi friends actually believe in God. I don't think they actually think Islam is the path to truth and enlightenment. And I think I make them feel very uncomfortable because I am open about the fact that I don't believe these things. However, I am ashamed, I have to say, to go to their houses now and to have dinner with their parents, because I actually don't want to have that conversation with them. And this is the kind of thing that I think white atheists need to understand. You know, that maybe, as Hassan has been speaking of, maybe there are barriers for us that aren't there for you. And some of those barriers aren't there for me, and that's why I'm able to speak out as I do, because I don't have parents. And my immediate family, the people I love most in the world, are also atheists. So it's easy for me. And I just ask, my piece in The Guardian was asking for empathy. And I was shocked and disappointed at the lack of empathy shown by so many of the people who commented on that article. And what has saddened me about my being out as an atheist, I haven't had one Muslim attack me. You know, there hasn't been any Asian. I had one email from someone saying, I hope Allah will lead you back to the path, right? That's a nice email. I've had obnoxious comments and emails from white atheists and skeptics, accusing me of misogyny, accusing me of racism. Like, how did that happen? Anyway, I'm done with that. Okay.
finally, Hassan.
I just want to quickly come back to that point. Actually, Alam's already said it. We're not preaching atheism. We're defending secularism and the right to believe in what you want. If people want to leave Islam and become Christian, Jew, Buddhist, whatever they like, that's what we're here to defend. As it happens, majority of the ex-Muslims I know, after having gone through a great big long struggle, leaving one set of silly myths and nonsense, don't usually jump into another set of a different flavor. But that's what we're here to defend. We defend that right. I myself, I'm not an atheist actually, I'm agnostic, which is pretty close to atheism. Some people say it's a synonym, really. But there are times when I think maybe there is a God. Mind you, when I do think maybe there is a God, I only feel like punching him.
Okay, we've got about another 10 minutes or so time for 2 or 3 more contributions. I've got a gentleman right at the back there, a lady there, and that gentleman over there. Gentleman right at the very back. Almost out of the room, but not quite.
Hi, my name is Jalil. I would like to share my experience of how I become unbeliever, and then tell my opinion about what is the problem now. I was born in a called Muslim families. My father and my mother used to pray 5 times a day, but they didn't know why they're praying. And when we made joke of them, they didn't get angry. They said, okay, that's kids making joke of us. But we grew up in that family to naturally to become Muslim, call ourselves Muslim. And my friends, I had friends that from Christian families, they were Christian. But we didn't know what our parents are doing, why they are believing in those kind of things. But we played outside together as friends. But our parents discriminated each other. How I'm not going to details what happened. Then when I went to school, the secondary school, we studied Darwin's theories. And I couldn't believe in that kind of stuff my parents believed. I always, with my friends, for us, it was very easy to make joke of religious activities of our parents with my friends. Very easy. We didn't call ourselves as a Muslim. And when I went to university, there was groups of Islamic people and non-Muslim people. Actually, for people who used to call themselves Muslims, they were a little bit isolated from other people in Iran at those days. And non-Muslims who believed in science and they taught scientifically, they were very powerful. But after when this Islamic regime came to power, people scared, afraid. When I was talking to my mother, look, why you believe in this kind of things? And she said to me, but there's government there, and you're not here to protect me. The government is there going to kill us. I'm trying to say that the power, the lawmaking, the laws are very important. I have a daughter of 9 years old. When she started going primary school and nursery, she started questioning about religion. And she found out that her mom was Christian. And she tried to ask, Daddy, what you are? And I tried to explain how to explain to her to understand. I said, what do you mean what I am? I'm your dad, and my name is blah, blah, blah. And she said to me, are you Christian or Muslim? And I found it very difficult to explain to her. Why ask me that question? I'm not Christian, I'm not Muslim. And she said, what you are then? I mean, I'm your dad, I'm a human being. And when she went year 2, year 3, year 4, in year 3, one of her classmates had told to another girl, a boy, non-Muslims should be killed. A 7-year-old child is telling to a 7-year-old child, at schools in England, in London, that non-Muslims should be killed. That's a problem. And last week again, she told Daddy, I'm telling you something, I lied at school. I said, what do you mean? She said, at school, my teacher asked me, are you celebrating this, what's that coming up? Christmas Day. And she said, I didn't know what to say. I said, my mom celebrates, but my dad is Muslim. And Daddy, I lied. And I didn't want to hurt her. I said, don't worry, maybe you didn't know what to say, you were confused. When she heard I'm saying to her, you were confused, she said, yeah, I was confused a little bit, well, I lied, what can I do? I said, don't worry, I'm not Muslim, but if they can't say, I'm trying to say, the government, the power, the lawmakers are trying to divide children, to separate them, to say, either you are Muslim or you are Christians. The education is, there is something wrong with the education system here. We have to address these issues as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I think there's quite a few things wrong with the educational system here, actually. But a lot of things that are right with it as well. Lady there, and then the gentleman over there.
Yes, hello. I just want to say that maybe a lot of people here were very aware that Muslims, if they decide to leave their faith, they face a lot of threats, and in Muslim countries they can be killed, and even here a lot of Muslims can do harm to them. But I didn't come from a Muslim background, so I was not aware of this until fairly recently, until a few years ago, when I attended university, and some Muslims explained that to me, that this is what happens to people who leave the faith. And I considered myself quite an intelligent person, and I thought that I understood how Muslim societies worked and so on. But then I realized that actually I don't know very much about that, because I don't think that this is something that people discuss very often. Maybe because you are like ex-Muslims, you know all about these kind of things, but I think a lot of people in the wider community in this country don't really know that this is what can happen to Muslims here and Muslims abroad. For this reason, when, for example, you have people saying that you should consider like including black atheists more, a lot of people may not understand why would we want black atheists. They may not realize that that is the case. So anyway, what I'd be interested in is to see us work towards, for example, having this recognized as an issue in the community in the UK, that Muslims, if they decide to leave the faith, they can face threats, and some people will want to kill them, and we want them to be able to step out and say that they are not Muslims anymore, and to work towards that aim, to spread the knowledge of this, and for people who are also non-Muslims to be able to kind of join forces and say, yes, we don't find this acceptable in this country, we don't find it acceptable in Europe or any other place in the world. And so I'd like people to be able to work towards that.
Okay, thank you very much. And one final contribution, please, and then I'm afraid we're going to have to wrap up this session. The gentleman over there. I'm sorry.
Hello, my name is Frida. I'll be brief. I just